everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Personal. I'm your host, as always, Frances Reimers, and we welcome you and welcome you back this weekend. If you are in the DC metro area, I hope that you are sitting somewhere cool and watching us as it is ungodly hot in the nation's capital today. And don't be shocked if those of us here on the screen today are patting ourselves down and using fans and the whatnot, because it is brutal. If you'd like to join in the conversation for today, please join us on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio and on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. If you would like to talk personally to me, Frances Reimers, you can reach me on Instagram at Firestarter CEO and on Twitter at Your Firestarter. So today I am super duper excited because we have so many topics to cover and such a short amount of time to do it in. And I have with me my new fabulous newest bestest friend ever, Dr. Nabil. How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
And we discussed this in advance. He is not Cher. He does not only go by a first name. I just was so terrified to butcher his last name on TV that I just decided to call him by his branded name. And so he was happy to oblige. But thank you for joining me.
Thank you very much for having
I
me
am
on.
so
appreciate it.
excited, first of all, to always excited to make a new friend. But second of all, such an interesting and fascinating new friend. So you are a clinical psychologist.
Yes, by training, yes, I am a clinical psychologist.
How did this all come about?
So I have a brother with autism. And so that's actually what got me started into psychology.
Okay.
So when I was in high school, I grew up with autism all my life. He's 2 years younger than me.
Okay.
And I went to college. I went to UCLA, and it happened to be the place where one of the world's experts on autism was studying psychology.
Oh.
So I took classes with him. I learned how to do. He was doing the behavioral interventions for kids with autism. One of the earliest people to do that intensively for kids with autism.
Okay.
So I got the opportunity to work one-on-one with kids on the spectrum and teach them skills, teach them language, social skills, and start to learn how to work effectively with people with autism. Wow. And so that was really cool. And then that led me on the path to wanting to get my PhD. So I got my PhD in clinical psychology.
Right.
And then I did a postdoc studying autism and worked for 7 years at a hospital in Cleveland doing that work before I moved into associations.
And autism is a topic that, if you were to rewind, probably when you and I were in undergrad, it was a topic that not a lot of people, unless it directly impacted you, a topic that a lot of people didn't know anything about. And so talk a little bit about how you feel about the evolution of the topic of autism, and how is the information that's being given out to the public right, wrong? What is your feeling about all of the topics around autism?
So when I was a kid, I never met anyone who had a brother with autism. Like
Right.
it was really rare, and so I always felt like I was alone, or there was only a few of us. Since then, the diagnosis has gotten a lot. There's been a lot more education about autism.
Right.
The definition of autism has expanded.
Right.
We have more. So back then we were talking 4 to 20 and 10,000 kids were diagnosed with autism, and now we're talking 1 in 66. And
is that because we just didn't know? Is the change in the numbers because we didn't know, or it's more prevalent?
There's a number of things.
Okay.
So first, we have expanded the definition of autism.
Right.
So we used to consider it a very small diagnosis, the more like the Rain Man,
Right.
if you saw in the movie
Right.
Rain Man.
Right.
Fairly low functioning.
Right.
We've made it included to Asperger's. Well, now that's changed, but in the 90s they added Asperger's to the diagnosis. So that expanded what we considered autism. So that's first. Second, more awareness. So people are now educated about it and are looking for it. Third, we have better assessment tools. So we have a lot more techniques for psychologists and pediatricians and psychiatrists to diagnose autism. And then finally, you can get more services if you have a diagnosis with autism. So we've seen diagnoses of intellectual disabilities actually go down and autism rates go up.
Right.
And part of that is because parents may be advocating for the diagnosis of autism. They get better services, more speech therapy, more intensive treatments.
Right.
So it's better for, there's a lot more opportunities for kids with autism.
Right. And more opportunities within the educational system as well
Yes,
to
yes,
help
definitely.
them keep moving them along.
Yes.
Am I correct in that there's certain universities in the United States that if a child gets to that age and that level, there's certain universities, like isn't it Drexel or some university has programs specifically for people with autism if they want to go to
There's
college?
a number of universities now. I think so the beginning of the rise in autism was about 20 years ago.
Okay.
And so you've seen in the last 5 to 10 years more work on autism at universities.
Mm-hmm.
So there are universities, I don't know if Drexel has one, but
Right.
there are certainly more universities that have programs for adolescents with autism.
Okay. And so speaking of psychology and you being a doctor, we talked a little bit off camera about how, mostly because I could not pronounce your last name correctly, that you branded yourself Dr. Nabil. And how did that come about? So how did you
Okay.
create that brand? How did that evolution get started?
So there's 2 steps.
Okay.
So the first part is in 1998, I was publishing my master's thesis.
Okay.
And so, and it was on play with between kids with autism with their family members, siblings, mothers, and fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was publishing I got it accepted. It got accepted without major revisions, which is very rare.
Yeah.
So
Good for you.
who knew? That was the only time that I've gotten so easily published.
Well, unless you put something on my blog, then it's just a pass through. It's a pass through.
So I started thinking, okay, I might go into practice.
Okay.
And I thought, people will say, oh, I know a great psychologist. His name is Nabil, and they'll pause because they couldn't say my name or spell my name.
It's very hard.
So my name is Nabil El-Garouri, Nabil Hassan El-Garouri. But so what I thought about was that my last name is hard. Nabil is manageable once
Yeah,
you
it's
learn.
manageable. Yeah.
And then I thought that my middle name is my dad's first name, Nabil Hassan.
Right.
And I thought that could be the name that I use if I ever went into private practice.
Right.
And that's an understandable name.
Yes.
Nabil Hassan is not a hard name. And if I really want to get easy, I could become Bill Hassan. I don't want to do that. I like Nabil because Nabil is like Cher. People remember Nabil.
Bill would be awkward, I
Yeah.
think. That's awkward.
So what I did for my first paper was that I published, I put my full name instead of my initial on that publication.
Okay.
And every publication I've had since then, I used my full name, Nabil Hassan El-Garouri, to establish a paper trail
Right.
that this was my brand.
Right.
And so that was my first thought about branding.
Right.
Was that I wanted a pathway where I could use my middle name as my last name.
Right.
If I ever wanted to.
Right.
At this point, I'm not sure that I'll do that because people are knowing me as Nabil El-Garouri.
Right.
But then the second part of my branding story is when Twitter came along, right?
Yep.
And so I decided. So in my practice, I was known as Dr. Nabil, and I always insisted that my patients learn one name.
Right.
You either had to learn Dr. Nabil or Dr. El-Garouri, and I was not going to be Dr. N or Dr. E.
Oh, no.
So even the kids, even the 5-year-olds had to learn one name.
Man, you're tough.
I am tough. I am tough, but that's
Yeah.
part of it's part of
Sweet.
respect. I call you by your first name. The parents are Mr. Smith, Mr.
Right, right.
Mr. Gonzalez.
Absolutely.
And so I wanted them to learn my name.
Right.
And so Dr. Nabil, I was fine with, and patients could find me. Administrative assistants in the department could find me
Sure.
if they use, but Dr. E would not be enough.
Right, right.
And so I was called Dr. Nabil at the hospital, and then I decided when Twitter came along that I would claim Dr. Nabil
Right.
as my online brand.
Right, right.
And what I regret doing was that I didn't get the Gmail account.
Oh, yeah, because now
There's
it's
no
all
Dr.
uniform.
Nabil. Yeah, so I have
But
I
do
have
you
a version.
have the URL?
I did not get the URL, but I got Dr. Nabil doctor spelled out.
Okay.
Dr. Nabil
Okay, fair
spelled
enough,
out.
fair enough.
So that's that's not bad.
No, no. Well, it's so funny when people contact me about they have to establish their brand or reestablish their brand. I walk them through this long, convoluted conversation about these very things that we were just talking about. Can we get the URL? Can we get the Twitter? Can we get the Instagram? And they're like, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter. I'm like, yes, it does. Because if people at the top of the show, me reading off all of these various handles that people have to reach you with, if you're not reached at something universal,
Right.
and they're called you at the same thing, it becomes this long, annoying thing, and it takes people forever. But so you established this look and feel for yourself.
Yes.
What growth or what challenges have you seen in the growth of being Dr. Nabil?
Well, I have a love-hate relationship with Twitter.
I think everyone does.
So, I started it and then I get away from it,
Yeah.
so I have this love-hate relationship.
Yes.
But I'd say in the last year, I've gotten much more active on Twitter.
Okay.
Particularly because of my involvement in the DELP program at
Yeah.
ASAE. So
Yes.
that is the Diversity Executive Leadership Program of the American Society of Association Executives.
And we'll go down that route after our break.
Okay.
But continue.
So, with the DELP stuff,
Right.
I've been attending more events,
Right.
and I use my phone as my note taking.
Right.
So
Okay.
I tweet and take notes.
Okay.
By that way, so I don't write notes on any app. I just tweet all the notes that I'm
Right.
taking.
Right.
And using hashtags and stuff, and that has gotten some attention. Particularly by people at ASAE, so
Yes,
they know
of
me.
course.
They know me
Yeah.
really well.
Yeah.
And then people in the community have, and so that actually led to my becoming a co-host of Association Chat.
Yes.
So with Kiki L'Italienne.
Yes,
So,
of course.
so and it was because of my tweets, my
Right.
online personality that she really liked.
That you were out there and
Yeah.
you were consistently and effectively posting.
Yes.
And it got you noticed.
Yes.
I say this all the time, kids. I repeat this all the time. Effective and consistent posting. And so how do you feel about like Instagram and Facebook and Snapchat
So
as they help or hurt your brand?
So Facebook, I'm not using that brand. Like to me, Facebook is my personal space.
Mm-hmm.
But I probably should claim a page, Dr. Nabil page.
Yeah, you
you're
gotta
right.
do it. You
I,
gotta do
I
it.
will do that when I get home. And then on Instagram, I have Dr. Nabil
Right.
as my Twitter.
Yeah.
And that is a little bit personal, but not really.
Right.
But that one is sort of my cooler side. So I like I like graffiti, and so
Okay.
my Twitter, my Instagram is primarily graffiti.
Okay.
And it's a little bit travel, so it's
Okay.
occasionally there are some selfies in there, but really it is my graffiti and travel pics.
And do you, I am a believer that, all of my social media channels are my personal and my professional life constantly. There's no, for me personally, there's no separation between the two because I live my brand and that's my
Yeah.
business. But a lot of people feel very adamantly about keeping their personal life and their private life completely separate. Do you commingle? Or are you've had a couple of slip ups and you're just like, F it, I'm just gonna keep posting to this.
Well, so the interesting thing is psychology is, because of the profession,
Right.
because of the nature of what we do,
Right.
which I don't do practice anymore.
Right.
But I work with psychology grad students, and I work with faculty, and I work with practicing psychologists, and the boundaries are really a big issue. And so when I was in practice,
Right.
there was a very fine line. Like my Facebook was not was private. It was
Right.
it was not it was not for public.
Right.
Twitter for sure is public for me.
Right.
And Instagram is public. I have chosen not to put it private.
Right.
But I'm very comfortable with everything that I've said on Twitter and
Yeah.
on Instagram. There's nothing there that I wouldn't tell a client.
Right.
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 But my Facebook is more like political, and so
Okay.
And 2016, 2017 has been really tough.
It's been a tough time.
So
time.
I actually struggle.
A lot of people muted on Facebook.
I on Twitter, I actually was posting some stuff like in early January, February when I was really upset, and then I pulled back because that's my professional life.
Right.
And
right.
so, what I do is I like stuff, but I don't retweet.
Right.
You know, I guess you can track that. But
You can track what people like.
But I like a lot of stuff.
Right. And so they get exhausted in this
Yeah.
in this attempt. You know, I mean, I have always as part of my brand, I have always specifically chosen to stay away from the politics. Every once in a while, I'll make a comment of something that I see, but I try to be as neutral about my comment as possible. I try to be more like, you know, this isn't right no matter what side of the coin you're on. This is wrong. But it was tough. This, you know, it was
The last couple months have been tough.
yeah, the election was really tough, and you know, I come from Wyoming, which is a heavily red state, and so my feed, you know, living in DC
Yeah.
and coming from Wyoming, my Facebook feeds were just a constant bashing of ideologies all the way up and down. And so it gets tough. But like you, my Facebook is my private space. If you're connected to me on Facebook, it's because I consider you a personal friend, or I'm related to you in some
Yeah.
way, shape, or form. But the rest of it is public fodder. And so I try to keep it
Well,
tame.
I'm really a big proponent for psychology graduate students and for psychologists to think about your personal brand, but also to think about responsible use of social media.
Yes.
I mean, pretty much you have to be willing. You could have every privacy setting you want, but it can get out.
Yes.
And so you have to assume that, you know, how would you feel if a client saw that picture,
Right.
or saw that post,
Right.
And so live by that motto,
Right.
because, you know, friends of friends, it is not
Right.
it is really possible.
Well, you have, you know, I know people who have worked with people who have hacked into their social media accounts.
Oh, yeah.
Just to find stuff to get them fired, to get them demoted. I mean, there are the level of crazy out
Well,
there.
And what we have found is that people, patients actually do Google. They do search
Yes.
for you.
Yes.
And so one of the things about your personal brand that's important is that what do you want out there? Do you want stuff that other people have put out there, or what you have put out
Right,
on there?
right.
So that's part of the reason why I advise people to be on Twitter, to have a blog, to have a Google. Who uses Google Plus? But
Yeah, Google Plus is I mean, I have it. I don't use it.
Well, you know, my friend tells me she gets a lot of clients from Google Plus because it comes up often in Google search.
Right.
You know, so I can see doing that, but
I'm not feeling it.
but you might as well claim it.
I have it
Yeah.
because Google runs the universe,
Right,
and if you
right.
don't have it, you're hurt in SEO.
But the idea or LinkedIn, even a lot of my colleagues aren't on LinkedIn. I don't
That's
understand
amazing to
LinkedIn.
me.
LinkedIn is professional Facebook.
Yeah.
Come on, just connect.
Well, some people use it for dating.
you know, okay.
They do. I have gotten multiple date offers on LinkedIn.
I can see why. But you know,
It's so awkward because most of them are old enough to be my father.
Yeah.
And it's I'm like, you know, this is not what this is for, right? You know, right? You know that, right? And I just feel really awful. But you're spot on. And I say this to clients, whether it's an athlete or a celebrity or an executive or whoever. We now live in a world where someone will Google you before they pick up the phone.
Yes, absolutely.
Before they come visit you.
Absolutely.
And you have the choice to decide what they see. You have the
Right.
choice.
So that's why you have a website, so your information is out there.
Right.
And it's not, I mean, because it's really easy. If something goes viral, you know, like there's the doctor in Miami.
Yes.
You know, the Uber driver,
Yes,
doctor in
yes,
Miami.
yes.
Well, first off, don't do anything that you
Right.
would be ashamed to do.
I mean,
her Google search is going to come up all that video.
Yeah.
It's never going to be that.
no, it's never going to go away either.
Nope.
Once it's out there, it's out there.
Right.
And yeah, you have to watch it.
So when I was talking to, I gave a talk to psychology licensing boards.
Okay.
So these are the regulators from
Ooh.
government, right? From this, they
bet they're a
represent the
good
state
time.
boards. But I was talking to them about professional and ethical uses of social media.
Ah.
They had no idea that people are advertising on social media, because they are
So let me get this straight. People who work for the government didn't know that people are advertising.
no,
Okay.
like using Groupon
Oh.
to advertise therapy.
Oh,
You can get, psychological testing on Groupon.
Yeah.
You know,
DNA testing. I've seen it.
Right. I mean, and they were shocked by this. And I
Yeah.
said, if you're starting a business, what a great way to fill your time.
Yeah.
Like, just get your name out there.
Just-
I,
yeah.
I don't see a problem with that. But then the other side is the dating apps.
Yeah.
So I was teaching these 60-year-olds about Tinder. Left, right, swipe, up swipe, And here's the risk for psychologists is that what if you see your client there?
Yeah.
Or what if your client
It
sees you?
But I've seen people advertise their business in their Tinder profile. Tinder or Bumble.
Okay.
They're not just like, hi, I'm Dr. Nabil and I work in an association as an association. It's like, hi, I'm Dr. Nabil and you can reach me here for a free consultation. And there's
Okay, that is too weird.
it's literally out there. And every time I always swipe on those people because I want them to pick me just so I can be like, what the F is wrong with you? Who raised you?
That is personal. That is not where you get
It's
clients.
so creepy. I'm like, I always think to myself, I'm like, so if we go out, like, do I get a discount? Like, like, is there like a twofer? Like, what happens? People, these are the reasons that I exist as a professional, because there are so many people out there that are doing things like that, or worse. There's far worse. There is actually an elected official, DC elected official, whose Tinder account he is like practically naked, and so, what?
You mean separate from Anthony?
Yeah, yeah.
You mean separate from what was his name?
Anthony Weiner?
No. No, his was it the dog? It's like he had a dog, like a pet name or something like that.
What?
I don't know. I can't think of what it was.
Oh my God! We're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna figure out the answer to that story. But we're also gonna get into something that Dr. Nabil and I have in common, which is I have been an association executive, and he is association executive. So we're gonna get back with you in just 1 second. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Let's Talk Personal. I'm your host, Frances Reimers. If you'd like to join the conversation, join us on Twitter at LTP Brand Radio and on Instagram at Let's Talk Personal. I am here with Dr. Nabil, and we did find out the name of Anthony Weiner's alter ego, and it was Carlos Danger.
Yes.
Carlos Danger.
Someone
needs to name their band that.
I am sure there is some band somewhere. Maybe in
love it.
Wyoming.
Maybe. Like, I mean,
That's probably more inside the Beltway kind of joke.
yeah.
So,
Well, or New York.
maybe.
I mean, Carlos.
I mean, he did run
Danger.
for mayor there, so.
I can't wait
Actually,
for his Lifetime
brand,
original movie
his
to come out.
brand, the repair work you can do. Or are you staying away from that?
So every time something horrible goes on in the media, like for example, what is happening currently with Donald Trump Jr., friends and family and colleagues always like text me or call me and they're like, what would you do in this case? Well, first of all, I'm not going to tell you. Second of all, I wouldn't touch what's going on with the Trump administration with a 10-foot pole. But Anthony Weiner, I would also not touch him, but if somebody wanted me to consult as
So
a
you're not
third party,
You're not an Olivia Pope.
I know. I mean, there are certain people that you just can't help. And until I get some sort of certificate of completion that he's gone through like a 12-step program, or that he is
Did
gonna
the Hugh Grant
right,
interview?
right,
Yeah.
right. Like
Yeah.
I need some assurance that he is not gonna go batshit crazy on me again, or have anything. I recently had an agent call me about working with an athlete who has gotten into multiple instances, and sometimes the juice is just not worth the squeeze. And until
Yeah.
somebody is ready to really focus on their brand and really focus on having a good, solid public image, I think you're just going to be in Wolverine mode.
Yep.
And you know, I'm a small business owner. I can't be in Wolverine mode.
You know, the best compliment as a member ever gave me was that I was like Olivia Pope. And she said, if a problem comes to you, it's handled. I'm like, that's how I like to be seen.
Right?
You know,
Absolutely.
but I don't have Carlos Danger problems.
Right.
I don't have those kind of problems.
I think good, because you wouldn't be on the show if you had Carlos Danger problems. But it's you know, it's really tough, and it brings up a really good. I mean, we're digressing to the before the break information, but this is a good point. Is if you are really not willing to put the time and effort into your brand, to keep it solid, to keep it positive, you're really just going to keep digging yourself a hole. People, it's not uncommon especially when I'm dealing with athletes, that they're like, I'm just going to be me. I'm just going to do whatever I want to do. But then they don't understand why endorsements are not coming knocking at their door. And my response to that is always the same, is advertisers want to be assured that they're putting money towards something that's going to get them a net gain. When you act like a jackass, it's not going to get them
Right.
a net gain, you know. And there is a fine line between authenticity and just being a jackass. Like, there is a way of being authentic to who you are, where you came from, your morals, your values, those sorts of things, without being offensive to the
Yeah.
general public.
You can speak the truth without being rude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can always be honest but respectful.
So the interest here's I'll link this back to what I do.
Okay.
People on the autism spectrum sometimes have a hard time with that.
Yes.
Because
they
they're
do.
so rigid, you know,
Yes.
and so they might say, but that's true. Like,
And cues are difficult.
and so that is
Right.
actually one of the things that I would work on with teenagers.
Interesting.
Is how to say things in ways that were more polite, but also true to what they were thinking.
And how does your training help them from like intense situations, if they're in conflict with somebody? How do you help them not go back to a default setting?
It is not easy.
Right.
So it is not easy. I think about sibling relationships as one of the toughest ones, because you can love your sibling and hate them at the same
Right.
same time.
Yes.
So I think working with if they are verbal enough, which these kids tend these adolescents tended to be.
Right.
We would talk about how that might affect the feelings of their sibling
Right.
when they were too honest or
Right.
too brutal,
Right.
and talk about different ways of communicating that is still authentic to who they are, right?
Right.
So if they're saying, I'm mad at you, you don't have to call them a bitch.
Right.
You can say, I don't like that you changed the channel on the
Right.
TV when I was
Right.
watching my favorite TV show.
Right.
but sometimes they would, just be very direct and say,
Yes.
"Get your hands away from me,"
And
so
they have no filter.
Yes,
and they have no ability to have the
Right.
filter. So it's a challenging conversation, but useful. Have you, just out of my own curiosity, have you helped or worked with anyone with autism if they wanted to be in the social media space?
So when I left practice,
Mm-hmm.
it was MySpace versus Facebook.
Oh, MySpace.
I know,
What?
right? MySpace.
I
Oh my
still
God.
have my MySpace page, by the way.
I never had a MySpace page because my patients. So
Mm-hmm.
I worked. So at the time that I was doing practice, I worked in a hospital in Cleveland, an inner city hospital in Cleveland, public hospital.
Ooh.
So I saw a lot of Medicaid patients.
Yes.
I speak Spanish, so
Yes.
a lot of my patients were Spanish. And when I asked them about social media, they tended to be on MySpace.
Right.
And so that meant Facebook was pretty safe for me.
Right.
So
yeah.
I could be on Facebook.
Because in that time you still had to have an EDU.
No, it had just opened up.
It just had
It
opened
had
up,
just
okay.
opened up. And so I did not have an EDU address
Right.
at the time. And so I was able to get it around 2007 or 8.
That sounds about
About
right.
right,
Yeah.
7 or 8.
Yeah.
And so I consciously did not go on MySpace because my patients were on MySpace.
Right.
And I went on Facebook, and I actually had the mom of a client tried to request me as a friend on Facebook, and so we had a conversation about that.
Right.
And I did not accept it.
Right.
I've actually written a book chapter about that because that's an ethical issue.
It's a real thing.
That's a real issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
The strategy for psychologists
Right.
is to have a social media policy. Just like your confidentiality
Right.
and establishing, like, if I see you in the real world,
Right.
I will not acknowledge you, but you can say hello to me. And if you say
Right.
hello to me, I will say hello
hello
back.
back, right.
If you ignore
Right.
me, I will ignore you.
So
Right?
awkward.
It is weird, but
so
but you have
awkward.
to. But it's worth having the discussion before, and
Right.
then if it happens,
Right.
then you can talk about it after it happens.
It feels like living in a world of surrounded by your exes. Like if I
It is.
if I acknowledge you, then you can acknowledge me, or if we don't acknowledge each
Well,
other,
but-
it's totally fine.
But it's basically
Right.
thinking about the scenarios before they happen.
Right.
So social media is the same thing.
Right.
It's like, I am not gonna, accept your friendship on a connection on Facebook or
Yes,
LinkedIn.
yes.
You can connect to me on Twitter because that's
Yes,
public.
yes.
But do not use Twitter for contacting me about an emergency.
Right.
Like, you have mechanisms to do that.
Yes.
You have the phone numbers. You know
Yes.
what to call.
Right.
So it's about educating them about that, and then when it happens, or if it happens,
Right.
then you have a conversation about that a
Right.
second time.
Right. Right. But medical providers of all kinds need to prepare themselves.
Oh, yeah.
I worked with a medical group in upstate New York not too long ago where patients were literally tweeting and Facebooking them that they're having an emergency.
Oh my
and,
gosh.
And
Oh.
it would go unseen because people were like, "Oh, I'm my
I don't necessarily look at my every
Right.
5 minutes on my
right,
Twitter.
but they were literally tweeting at the medical facility, being like, "I'm having an emergency. What should I do?"
no.
And hours would go by before somebody from their marketing team would see it.
Right.
And so this is a my old CEO actually wrote a wonderful white paper on what happens when they don't dial 911, because this is a real issue in the medical community
It
that
really
people
is.
are now turning to social media rather than dialing 911. And the infrastructure within the medical field and
Yeah.
our 911 service
Yep.
in most areas isn't equipped to handle
or
this.
cell phones
Or
versus
cell phones or
versus
landlines.
landlines.
This is a real thing, and so it's great that you're talking to medical professionals in your field about this, because this is real and it's only going to keep growing.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of the field that you are in right now, you are actually, your day job is actually, you're the executive director of an association.
Correct.
So talk about that.
So I work at the American Psychological Association.
Very fitting.
Which was a natural fit. And I'm the director of the graduate student group at APA.
Right.
And how I got into it
Right.
is they were looking to get a new director of the grad student group, and I had been involved in that grad student group
Right.
when I was a grad student.
Right.
I had been, by the time the job opened up, I was 8 years out of working in APAGS. That's our acronym for APA.
Of course,
Because
it's an
everyone
association.
we all have acronyms,
You all
you know.
have to have an acronym.
APA grad students is our Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So follow us on Twitter.
Check it out.
Yeah. If there's selfies, that's me when I take the selfies.
You are the king of the selfie.
I know the angle.
I thought I was big on selfie, but you have it all like. You were
I'm
like
fast.
You were a ninja.
I'm efficient because
was
I don't
like,
like to
"Whoa."
waste time.
Yeah, no. I support
So I'd been working at this hospital
Right.
for 6.5 years.
Right.
And I was ready for a change. I'd accomplished all the goals I'd wanted to
Yeah,
do.
you'd done it all.
So I learned how to do therapy in Spanish.
Okay.
I was doing therapy, assessments, and autism assessments in Spanish.
Right, in
And
Latin America, right?
Well, there I was doing it in Cleveland.
Okay.
So Latin America came through APA.
that. Okay.
But and I was looking for something new, and I actually thought I'd go to San Diego, move where my family
Love
is.
San Diego.
Yeah, I grew up in San Diego. My
Love
dad's there. My brother with autism's there, and a second brother. Everyone thinks I only have one brother because I only talk about the one with autism.
Right.
But and my youngest brother, he had just had a daughter around that time, so I was thinking, I'll move back to San Diego.
Right.
So I applied for a job in Children's Hospital in San Diego. Didn't get it.
Okay.
But I thought I was going to get it, and then it didn't happen. It fell through, and it was a blessing in disguise.
Yep.
Because there was something wrong there, and I knew it. I knew it because that job had opened up every year. It opened up, like they could not retain someone, and then I was suspicious.
That's usually bad news. bears.
So I was very upset and depressed for that 1 month that I didn't get that
One
job.
month.
Well, the month after that, I didn't get the job. But then at the end of that month,
Right.
the APAGS job opened up. And I was like, this is the reason why I didn't
Right.
get that job. And
Right.
so I applied for this, and that was the only association job I applied for.
Right.
But the reason why I went for it was I'd been doing a lot of association work, volunteer work. So I was on 2 committees, and I was on a task force.
Right.
And I was on another association doing stuff that's a chapter of APA.
Right.
And so I was doing all this volunteer work, and I said, I need to get paid for this shit. and
Yes.
and that happened. That happened. I got paid.
Mazel.
It's very rare, right? So I got into the gig at the association.
Right. And association executives are, in the business world, it's always the thought process that businesses go first and then associations tend to follow suit. And since my time away from the association world, those who don't know, before going over to the dark side of for-profit marketing and communications, I was over on the association side working at ASAE, the Association of Associations, and various other organizations before making that transition. So this is why I'm in tune to this conversation. And when I left ASAE and subsequent years following, people starting to think about their brand as an association executive was really something that was starting to take form. But now I really think it's in full swing.
Oh, yeah.
Talk a little bit about why it's important that association executives know their brand, harness their brand, and do something with it.
Well, I've really only started using my brand for association stuff in the last year since I got into the DELP program, the Diversity Executive Program.
Right.
I think it's a big part about flexibility because you don't know how long you're going to be at your association.
Right.
And you should always be looking for the
Right.
next step.
Right.
And so part of it is about building your network, I think, and building connections.
Right.
There's a reason why on LinkedIn, I pretty much accept any LinkedIn connection.
Oh, do you?
I do. See, it's just but in a lot of times they're in psychology.
Right,
So,
okay, so,
they're
yeah.
sort of connected.
Yeah.
Sort of connected. I don't accept the international ones.
No, you say no to out.
Well, the ones from
overseas.
Africa. I've never been to Africa or India. Why are they friending me?
I mean, I don't know.
But I do. I have I have an easier LinkedIn.
Right.
Like my own personal
Right.
strategy has been to do that.
But in terms of our peers in the association world.
Yeah, to me it's about always thinking ahead.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so that way you're not trying to establish your network as you're looking for the job.
Right.
Like you should have your network developed and be using it, and
Yes.
then
Yes.
you're looking for work.
Especially at our age.
Yeah.
But what happens, you and I both know in the association world, it's younger. We got a young crowd. It's
Yeah.
always young batches of youngins coming into the
Yeah.
association world. So what would be your advice to an association professional of any association about building their brand within the association community?
Well, I would say use my favorite hashtag ever, which is association chat, but it's ASSN chat, which means Assen chat.
Assen chat.
Hashtag Assen chat. And, some colleagues of mine used that 8 years ago,
Right.
and they got their Twitter account suspended. But now it's a very common.
now people know what it is,
it's
right.
a used
Right.
brand, right?
Yes.
And so actually, Kiki talks about she's leaned into the hashtag. So come for the ass, stay for the chat.
I
Because
mean, some better than others, I will say.
I know how to twerk it. I mean,
Oh my god! I mean, it's ridiculously high. The one thing I noticed, I mean, and obviously this was a hot minute ago when I was in the association world, is that a lot of people didn't want themselves out there. They didn't want to be too self-promotional, and they viewed focusing on their brand as being like, too, look at me, look at me, look at me. Has that changed since my departure from the association world?
I think it's getting a little bit different. I think
Yeah.
with more millennials getting involved and more people, I think it's a little bit less that, but there's still a resistance, I think, to social media.
Yes.
I mean, when I went to APA, it was 2008. 2009 when I started. I started 1 week before Obama's election. That's
Right.
my marker, how long I've been in DC. And my goal was get my grad student group on social media.
Right.
My students are on social media. We need to be on social media.
Right.
Within a week, I got us on social media.
And so
But they
what?
hadn't been on it before.
So what shortened the conversation with you?
So what happened with us was that someone else was using our name,
Ah,
and
yes.
and so we sent a cease and desist.
Yes.
And we started our group
Right.
to get, and our goal at first was to get more members than he had.
Right.
And then it
So it was just a guy? Like in
it was a guy.
basement?
It was a grad student from another city.
Oh.
It was a grad student, and he had listed our address, but then he wanted to throw a party where he lived. I was like,
Oh,
"Ooh,
hey."
wait a minute." First off, I wasn't invited.
Right.
But
yeah. So
you
that
know,
would have been a lame party.
yeah, right. Actually, that is the best part of my job is throwing parties. I throw socials.
Well, I will say the number one thing that I miss from working in the association world is the parties.
Oh God. Yeah.
I miss the parties. Like nerds know how to rock it out. Like they're
Yeah.
throw some free red and white wine and some association professionals in the room and you got yourself a good time.
Oh, that's for sure.
It's a good party.
I always throw a great social for my students, and our annual meetings in DC in 3 weeks.
Oh.
So I'm throwing a nice event. In Latin America, though, there's always great dancing, and
Well, of course.
and the nerds don't really dance too much.
They don't?
No, my folks don't dance.
It's just
They-
is it
they'll-
boys on one side, girls on the other?
Well, first off, my field girls outnumber the guys.
Oh well, good for
You
them.
know, it's 60-70%.
Wow.
Actually 75% women to men.
So those women equally have as hard time dating in your field as they do in the
I
larger
wouldn't.
DC.
I don't advise two psychologists in a room dating. I don't advise that. I
bet their
there's a
I
lot
bet
of
their
processing.
dirty talk is very awkward.
There's a lot of processing.
Well, what do you mean by that?
How does that make you feel?
What do you mean?
No.
You said this the other day, and I feel that you're repressing memories about something that we
Yeah.
did 2 weeks ago. Oh,
Yeah, no.
oh,
My
no.
partner is not a psychologist.
I
Thank you,
bet-
Jesus.
I bet right?
Thank you, Jesus. And I met him before Grindr and Tinder and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, but that's even
Thank you,
better.
Jesus.
That's-
Oh.
So I have a dear friend, and the last time I saw him, he showed me Grinder, and I was like, my eyes. I mean, it is so much more graphic than a heterosexual.
See, I thought Tinder would end up looking like that with just a couple women, and actually, it's a mix.
It's a mix.
It's a mix.
mixed
There's more-
bag.
there's,
It's mixed bag. But speaking of the psychological damage of dating apps, because it is the struggle is real. Whether
Oh, yeah.
whether you're gay, straight,
Oh, yeah.
whatever. As a clinical psychologist, as doctor, how do you feel personally, not endorsed by your association or any of your affiliation? How do you feel social media is impacting us from a psychological standpoint?
Well, social media. I think there's a couple of things. I think number one, we're getting used to the sort of the anonymity, which allows for discourse that is really disrespectful.
Right.
And I do not like that at all.
I.e. bullying.
Bullying,
Yeah.
or just, I mean, because the things that are written on Facebook comments,
Yeah.
most people would not say them to
Never.
a person.
Never.
They might have some feelings that are related to it, but they're usually not going to say, "You are a fucking idiot."
Yeah.
They're not quite
Yeah.
going to say that.
Yeah.
Some people will,
Yeah.
and I refer to my practice. You know,
Here's my
Here you go.
card.
It's like, you have some anger issues. Here you go.
But thinking, and you work with millennials and upcoming professionals, do you see social media changing them as professionals?
Well, I think so. I'm at the very edge, I feel, of the digital divide. So I have stayed
Right.
abreast of everything. Snapchat is what has pushed me over the edge of like, I don't know if I can deal with Snapchat.
I can't get
Like,
down with Snapchat.
Who cares what you're doing every 5
can't.
minutes?
I
I'm not
can't.
interested in that.
Yeah.
But so Snapchat has been the beginning of me stepping away from it.
Right.
But I've leaned into Twitter, Facebook,
Right.
selfies, all that
Right.
kind of stuff.
Yes.
Well, the selfies. Okay, so selfies.
Yes.
So
Yes, let's
I
talk
think
about
I
selfies.
think there is a tendency towards egocentric behavior with
Yes.
the selfies.
Yes.
Not every picture requires a selfie.
Yeah, not
every-
everything you do requires a selfie.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
when you travel,
Right.
you could take a picture of the pyramids without you
in
it.
front of it.
But you want that one with it. I mean, I have a great picture. My Christmas card when I first moved to grad school was a picture of me on a camel
Right.
in front of the pyramids.
Okay, nice.
And so that was a
Yeah.
cool picture.
Right.
And so that was a cool picture. So some selfies totally fine.
But I got into an argument once with somebody who was like, even if somebody else takes the picture, if it's you being like, like the other day I was giving a presentation, somebody in the room took a picture of me giving the presentation and I posted it. And my friend was like, another selfie.
That's not, well, I don't
not
know.
a
That's an
selfie.
action show.
That's an action shot.
Yeah, that's not a selfie.
It's not
But-
a Kardashian action shot, but it's an action shot.
But I am really good at taking group selfies. Like I can get 20, 30. I did
you just have good arm angle.
well, it's arm angle and knowing where to stand. So I was
Yes,
talking
that's very
to
important.
Bring Your Kids to Work at APA. And it was the first time they asked one of
That's
the
a day I would've
psychologists.
called in sick, yeah.
No, I love it. I work with kids. So I love it. So I taught them about emotions, and then at the
Oh.
end, we did emotion charts with emojis.
nice.
Because when I was doing therapy, we didn't have emojis.
Right,
But
right.
emojis now are your feelings.
Yes.
And so
You can have tear emoji. You can
yeah,
have
yeah.
straight
Or the
mouth
real,
emoji.
the running, the
right,
running tears,
yes,
or the
yes.
laughing tears. So we used the emojis, and
Right.
and we talked about the ones that were ambiguous. What did you think? What do you think
There
this
are
emoji
a few
feels?
that I don't know what they mean.
Yeah, I've never figured out what the eggplant emoji means.
Yes, you know what the eggplant emoji means. Shut the hell up. You know what that means.
I just wanted to say that.
Like, don't make me get awkward in my lace dress.
No, but then I took a selfie with a whole class, and I got far enough in front of them that I could take the selfie.
I thought you were going
and
to say
fit them.
you took a picture of the class and then you posted it with an egg of eggplant
No.
emoji. Dear
That-
sweet
we did not
God.
talk about eggplant emojis.
Okay, we have to, not that we haven't been having fun, and I hope you all out there have been having as much fun as we've been having, but I want to get to the fun social media questions. First things first, whose personal brand is giving you life right now?
Okay, so in psychology, I
Yes.
would say Ali Matu.
Okay.
So he is a former chair of my committee.
Okay.
He now runs, he has a podcast called The Psych Show.
Oh.
Really cool, really cool. His last post was on what the Sorting Hat gets wrong about teenage personality development.
Ooh.
So it's very interesting. So if you like psychology and sort of geeky kind of stuff, he's great.
Perfect. Love it.
And then in the association world, I really admire Kiki L'Italienne.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she's a mainstay.
She's my co-host. She's the main host of Association Chat, and I feel very privileged to be now a co-host and talking to some great people.
And are you guys going to do anything special at annual?
Well, we're talking about maybe having a meetup.
Oh, Good.
That would be really cool.
Yeah, 'cause
but right now,
everyone's
I don't know.
there,
But
right.
I'm curious if people will start to recognize me because of association chat. I'm curious.
I mean, let's put it to the test.
Let's find out.
I want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. So tell me one social media phenomenon that or trend that just needs to stop.
So I already told you about the lack of civility.
Yes.
But the other one is on Twitter, the DM bots. You know, the direct message bots.
Yes.
Like, thank you for following me. Here,
Yes.
oh, come on.
So I was talking with my boy Troy on Twitter today just about that. Holler at me, Troy. About that because he was complaining that he gets them all the time, and I responded back to him saying if I follow somebody and get an auto DM, I automatically unfollow them because if you're not going to take the time to give me a personalized message as best as you can, I'm not giving you access to my network because that's what it is. Like you want to show up in my feed, well, take the time to acknowledge me as a human being, especially if the person is a marketer. If the person is a marketer or has a platform, we know what you're up to.
Yeah.
Give us an authentic message. So I immediately unfollow.
I don't like those. I'd much rather say I liked your tweet.
Right.
Great tweet.
Yeah. Give me
You know.
something authentic, or give me
Yeah.
something that at least shows me that a human being is behind
Yeah.
this and not
Yeah.
someone that's being paid or a bot of some kind. Absolutely. I absolutely hate that. So who do you think is producing the best content right now?
I really like George Takei.
Yeah. Oh God. Yes.
He's
of course.
hilarious. And then he also has his political beliefs out there
Yeah.
very publicly
Yeah.
and thoughtfully. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I don't like that the links he has a lot of the time are the I don't know what those those pages that keep on, you have to click multiple times to get
when there's, they have a chain that
the
you
chain.
have to go
I'm like,
through.
I just want to see,
You
read
just
the
wanna
post.
I just want to get
Read
to
the
the
post.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to get to the main content.
And then on my Facebook, I'm reading Vox all the time.
Yeah, Vox is great.
Vox is amazing. I love it. So smart.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, Vox is great. And who is your social media crush?
So my social media, I have a couple.
Okay.
I have 3. So on Instagram, I like graffiti.
Yes. of
So
course.
there's a guy that I follow, John Domine.
Okay.
John Domine Original, I think is his hashtag.
Okay.
Or his handle. And he has great graffiti shots. I am so envious of his graffiti shots.
I'll have to look him up.
And then
Do you know Kid Miro? Do you look at his graffiti?
I don't know.
He's on the Vice channel. He has great graffiti.
I need to look up. My favorite graffiti artist is Wordsmith.
Okay.
So I have my guy, and he's on my Twitter, on my Twitter handle. The header.
Oh,
the
in
header.
your banner?
My banner.
Okay.
My banner. He is one of the posts. Aspire to inspire the world.
Oh.
And the
I love that.
yeah, so it's really cool.
That's
Look up, check.
awesome. I will.
Dr. Nabil, check it out. But then also Matt McGorry,
Oh, yes.
because he's very woke.
Yes.
He's woke, and so.
And so, yes, and staying woke is very important.
Yeah.
And you will stay woke. Unfortunately, this was too good. We've run out of time, and we got to let the other folks get on here. Thank you, Dr. Nabil, for joining me this week. It was such a pleasure. Find us on social. We're on LTB Brand Radio on Twitter and Let's Talk Personal on Instagram. We're going to be dark next week as I attempt to have a social life, but I'll be back on the week after that with my dear friend and radio and TV personality, Travis Thomas. So I hope you check us out, but you can check us out anytime at www.letstalkpersonal.com. Bye.
Bye-bye.